my heart rate was always and continues to be through the roof. I suffered severely from like gastrointestinal things. That was the nausea, the vomiting, the like not being able to eat because you just don't have an appetite because you are so anxious from the thoughts that you're having. And I think that was hard to grasp because OCD is something that happens up here, but I was feeling it in the rest of my body. Anytime I experienced some form of anxiety growing up or anything that wasn't normal, I was always told, oh, you'll be fine, you're just overthinking. Or my family wasn't very open to talking about mental health issues and therapy. I carried that for the rest of my life, and I always thought like, oh my gosh, therapy is so bad. I'd never want to go to therapy. But I was also at such a low point with the thoughts that I was having that I honestly would have spoken to anybody. I waited way too long, but I only recognized that after.
Hi, everyone. It's May, which means it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And since this episode is launching in May, we wanted to just acknowledge that and remind you that even though May is designated as Mental Health Awareness Month, we believe every month is Mental Health Awareness Month. Remember, with OCD, you're not just your thoughts or your images or urges, even if OCD tries to tell you otherwise. Now, at NOCD, our mission, well, it's pretty simple. We want to help people reclaim their lives from OCD and related conditions. We want to increase access to care, virtual therapy, specialized treatment, and it's covered by insurance for over 155 million Americans. So whether it's May or any other time of the year, that mission doesn't change for us, right? We're here to help you live the life that you want to live and not the life that OCD wants you to live. If you or a loved one or a friend are struggling with OCD or related conditions, download the NOCD app and learn more about all of the various resources and tools and treatment options we have available. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of the Get to Know OCD podcast. My name is Dr. Patrick McGrath. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer for NOCD. Now, sometimes there are people who don't want to check us out at NOCD.com who think, no, I don't want to do therapy. That would be ridiculous. Why would I ever do something like that? I don't know if our guest has ever dealt with anything like that, but we're going to find out today if that's the case. So today we have Sabrina Eliano. Hello, Sabrina. How are you?
Hi, Dr. McGrath. Good. How are you?
I am doing so well. Now, I might have given something away, Sabrina, about maybe the fact that you weren't too interested in therapy. So what I'd love to do is learn a little bit about you, and then I want to get into that conversation. So first, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into how you found out OCD was a part of your life and what that journey has been like ever since.
Yes, of course. Okay, so my name is Sabrina Eliano. I am from Queens, New York. I feel like that is a huge part of my identity. So
Cool.
That's my fun fact for the day.
All right.
I currently work in education, but I decided to go back to school for clinical mental health counseling thanks to NOCD. I'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm really excited to like one day work as a counselor. I did oppose therapy at some point in my life for a very long time, actually. My family is a mixed cultural. My family is of mixed culture. My mother is Colombian and my father's Italian American, and both of those cultures kind of don't believe in therapy in different ways.
Right.
As a Latina, therapy has always been something that is quote unquote for crazy people, and it's always been looked down on. My father being Italian American, although he grew up in the States, he comes from a generation where mental health wasn't spoken about. So anytime I experienced some form of anxiety growing up or anything that wasn't normal, I was always told, oh, you'll be fine, you're just overthinking, or go take a shower, like you'll be okay. So my family wasn't very open to talking about mental health issues and therapy. as a child, I had a lot of behavioral issues. I just, would act out a lot as kids do. And somebody told my mom that I needed to go see a therapist, but they said it like it was a bad thing, like there was something
Mm,
wrong with me.
mm,
So my mom took me to see a therapist, but she didn't tell me that we were going to see a therapist. She didn't even tell me that we were going to an appointment for me. She
okay.
told me that it was an appointment for her, I guess, to trick me to go with her, even though I was like 7 years old. And when we got there, I was given a questionnaire. Like, I remember this like it was yesterday. I was given a questionnaire, had all these little pictures on it that I had to answer questions. And I was like, I don't understand why I'm answering the questions if we're
Sure.
here for you, Mom. And she said, oh, well, we're actually here for you. This is a therapist. Like, she's going to help you. And I completely lost it. I just completely lost it. I did not, the session was not productive at all. I remember I sat down under a table. Like, I thought there was something wrong with me. I was like, why am I here? So I carried that for the rest of my life. And I always thought, like, oh my gosh, therapy is so bad. I'd never want to
Mhm.
go to therapy.
And then you did go to therapy.
And then I did. And
So
now I'm here.
something had to have changed in there. I'm curious, what is the evolution from that 7-year-old who's refusing, and how many years did you say no, no, no? And then what was the turning point for finally going and saying, okay, I'm going to try this?
Yeah, so it wasn't until I was in grad school that I actually
Wow. Okay.
um
Hmm.
thought, okay, maybe I do need to go to therapy. I was about 22,
Hmm.
so quite a while after this 7-year-old experience. Um I can tell you the very specific situation, the scenario that my OCD was latching onto.
As comfortable as you are talking about it. Okay. Yeah, that's up to you.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I love to talk about it now. So
Hmm.
I I do think that it's super important to talk about because I think maybe many people go through these things, but they don't realize what it is, which is what happened to me. Um, I think everyone goes through like certain thoughts to an extent, but when they become as strong as they did with me, then is when it's a problem. I had I had told a friend a secret that I wasn't supposed to tell her.
Mm,
And I like was like, "Oh my goodness, like I shouldn't have said anything."
mm,
But then as time passed, like I just kept thinking like, "Oh my god, I told this girl something that I wasn't supposed to tell her." And like it wasn't like just a day. Like it was like 6 or 7 weeks that I was still thinking about it. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, she's going to tell someone, she's going to tell someone." But then her and I had a falling out. So I didn't even feel comfortable reaching out to her and being like, "Hey, just want to make sure that you're not going to tell anyone." And I like spiraled. Like I continued to just think about this and I'd be like, "Oh my god." Mind you, the secret that I had told her was about somebody that doesn't even know her, like completely different circles of life. I spiraled and I was like, oh my God, she's going to reach out to them on Instagram and she's going to find this person and she's going to tell them this secret that I told them and they're going to know that I told them a secret. But it was like the most, it was the strongest and I can't think of the right word. Like it just totally consumed my mind. I could not stop thinking about it to the point where I knew that it wasn't normal, that I was having these thoughts and like coming up with all these scenarios of like what my ex friend might do to these people that she doesn't even know. And then it might be linked to me. And this went on for months where it got to the point where I couldn't focus on school. I couldn't focus on work. I mean, there were other situations that were coming up and my brain was latching onto in the meantime, but this was like the biggest one for me.
sure.
And I remember one day I was on the subway and I was like, oh my goodness, I wish the train would just hit me because if the train hits me,
Mm,
then I won't have to think about this anymore.
hmm.
And that was when I was like, okay, that actually is not okay that I just thought that. I didn't harm myself. Thank God nothing happened to me, but I realized like if I'm having thoughts like that, that's a problem. And maybe I do need to get some help. So I just started Googling. I was like, okay, now what do I do? So I I started Googling, and the first thing that came up on Google was NOCD. And I was like,
Okay.
do I have OCD? Because this kind of sounds like what I'm going through.
Mhm.
I read the description of OCD on NOCD, and I was like, huh, maybe that
Hmm.
is me. And yeah,
Not just
and
contamination anymore, is it? Yeah, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not. It's not just
Yeah.
about washing your hands.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna schedule a call, and I did. And I was very lucky to be matched with a therapist that I clicked with right away, and I got the help that I needed.
That's amazing. And it sounds to me like it was inspiring enough that you might have decided on a career path for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. After I started going to therapy and like realized how helpful it was to have all these skills, I started to talk to a lot of people about it. I would like explain to people what OCD was and tell them what I was doing in therapy to help me with it.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was having these conversations, I found out that like a lot more people than I thought were experiencing similar feelings. And not to diagnose anyone, but just the fact that these feelings are out there and they happen, and maybe some are more severe than others, but they are almost, I don't want to use the word normal. What's a better word?
Um, they happen to everybody. I mean, we all have thoughts that we may not really like. We all have thoughts that we might wish weren't there. That is an average human kind of experience. But some people experience them in such a way that they feel as if they don't do something to neutralize it, something terrible or awful or bad will happen. It could be their fault because of that. And then that leads them down the realm of compulsion. And it
Yes,
sounds like that might have been what was happening with
like 100%. And
you. Mhm.
just talking to people about it made me feel like, okay, wait, I'm human. Like, we experience these things. And like I said, some worse than others, but it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to understand it and see it through different people's perspectives.
Sure. There's nothing wrong about thinking, right? There's nothing wrong about diving deep into thoughts. I mean, someone with a PhD in philosophy, that's their career is to think, right? But that thinking for them is not driven by, oh my gosh, I have to solve this and I have to have an absolute 100% guarantee and assurance about the answer. And it sounds to me like there probably wasn't enough given to you to ever feel like you were safe, you were secure, and there was always felt kind of like a threat in the back of your head. Am I right about that?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So we call this rumination, right? And for those listening, you're likely very familiar with that now, especially being in grad school and everything. But this idea of just going deeper and deeper into something and trying to figure out, I've trademarked a word, by the way, trying to figure out the unfigureoutable is so very is so very sticky for people, right? And again, I don't want to pathologize thinking. There's nothing wrong with thinking. There's nothing wrong with researching. But when you get to a point where you feel like if you stop, something terrible is going to happen, then we have a problem. And that sounds like where you were at.
Absolutely.
Tell people about that part, right? Because I don't have OCD. I can't give that lived experience to somebody. So what was that like? Just constantly feel on the edge of, if I don't figure this out, life is going to collapse, the world's going to explode, terrible things are going to happen. Walk people through that as they're listening.
It just feels like you can't turn your brain off. Like, no
Okay.
matter how much you try, your brain is like a machine that just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
overheating, and
Mm-hmm.
the exhaust is taking over your entire body, but you can't stop it. It's never going to
I
turn off.
love I love that example. That's great. Tell us more about that. Yeah. That's
Yeah, I
amazing.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's literally what it feels like.
Yeah.
The thoughts never stop. There's no solution to them either. And I mean, they're not realistic thoughts. They don't have any real basis, but no matter how much you try to convince yourself, they keep coming and you can't think about anything else. Or if you start to think about something else, then that becomes its own process where you're having repetitive thoughts about that. And it, even if you move off of one topic, you will latch onto something else and it just keeps going. It's like a cycle.
Yeah. And it's a cycle, which I think is such a great description. I loved your idea of exhaust too. Like it's all encompassing. It's just everywhere. And sometimes when you're stuck in that fog or that exhaust, no matter where you turn, you can't see where you're going and you can't find the exit out of it, right? And you just feel like you're going deeper and deeper into the experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. You go see a therapist, you tell them about this. You've spent years of your life thinking, no one else probably thinks like this. I'm the only one. I can't tell anybody, but no one's going to ever understand. What's that experience like when you say this out loud, finally someone, they go, oh, okay.
It's definitely validating, I think. It it's always, for me, it's always been really great to have a diagnosis. So to be told, you're not imagining this. You're not, it's not coming out of nowhere. There is a reason for why you're feeling X, Y, and Z, and this is the reason, and this is how we're going to stop it. I think that it's super validating for someone to say, oh yeah, okay. Like I said, like it's a diagnosis and there's a scientific explanation for it. For me, that's always been like, okay, so I'm not, you know, completely just making this up, because I also feel like that's something that OCD has done to me. It has made me doubt myself a lot and it has made me lose confidence in myself. So it got to the point where like I thought that I was making up the thoughts, if that makes sense.
True.
Like I guess I was telling myself, oh, I'm just pretending that I'm having these thoughts, which is ridiculous, but that's how my brain works. And to be told like, oh no, there's actually a reason that that's happening was very calming, because then I knew that I could do something about it.
Well, and OCD is tricky, right? I mean, it will do anything it can to get you to do a compulsion, right?
Yes.
So you will believe anything after a while that OCD likely tells you, because of the false promises that it gives you that says if you go down this road, you'll have relief. But how much relief did you ever get following the advice of OCD?
Oh, I never had any.
Right.
I'd fall right
You and
back
everyone
into the
else.
same pit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd fall right back into the same cycle. It wasn't even, not even temporary, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that that's the absolute jerkiness of OCD, right? Where it gives you these false promises and you believe it because, OCD is really connected to that fight, flight, or freeze response, and it can trigger these feelings. And tell me what you think about this, because I hear this on webinar all the time, and I answer this question. Probably it's the most frequently thing that I get questioned all the time with, why does OCD feel so real? How real did it feel for you?
Wow, that's a really good question. I don't think I've ever thought of it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like as it being a real feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Sure.
I think that what I felt the most was the, is it psychosomatic?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like when you
Like
feel it in your body.
the physical feelings that you
Yeah.
came. Fear can be manifested in many ways, right? It could be manifested physically. It could be manifested mentally. So it sounds like you felt maybe the panic sensations,
Yes,
the heart
exactly.
rates changing, the breathing changing. How did you experience it?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. So what I felt most was like the psychosomatic response.
Okay.
My heart rate was always and continues to be through the roof. Like I can be sitting there doing absolutely nothing and my heart is beating at like 172 beats per minute, which is very high. I suffered severely from like gastrointestinal things. That was the nausea, the vomiting, the like not being able to eat because you just don't have an appetite because you are so anxious from the thoughts that you're having. I think that was the most real for me. And I think that was hard to grasp because OCD is something that happens up here, but I was feeling it in the rest of my body.
I am thrilled we're having this conversation because we haven't had many people yet talk on the physical side. We've talked so much in a lot of these podcasts on the emotional piece of it. So this is really, really great. A lot of times people will come into therapy and even think they have panic issues, right? Because if they can't do a compulsion, they have this panic experience. And then if somebody who's doing therapy isn't well educated in OCD and they don't kind of really investigate it to see what's going on, the assumption might be this is just panic when it's so much more. So here you are, you're experiencing all these physical things. What were you doing up until therapy as a way to manage and deal with the physical sensations that you were having?
I wasn't.
You were suffering then.
I was suffering. I was
Yeah.
definitely suffering. I had lost a lot of weight because I really wasn't eating.
Sure.
I was always throwing up. My parents were like, "Are you pregnant?" Like, you know, like
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Why are you always throwing up? I'm like, I don't know. I wish I could tell you.
Yeah.
I was just suffering there. I really like. I had gone to thousands of doctors, you know, just getting checked out, and there was never an answer. Blood tests and everything would always be normal. They're like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you." I'm like, "Well, I think there is because I don't feel right." But it was very like, "Oh, there's nothing we can do. Like, you're fine. You're totally fine. There's nothing wrong with you and there's nothing we can do to fix you." So once I started managing like the mental aspect of it, I started to notice my physical body like just feeling so much better. I wasn't super nauseous all the time anymore. I will say my heart is still it still beats pretty fast sometimes when I get anxious, but I think that that's okay because I'm learning to manage it.
Yep.
I mean, obviously OCD is never going to go away.
No.
But I'm okay with that because I know how to manage it now. And I know that it's there, but I also know that it's not like here to take over my entire life.
And you know that you don't have to believe it now too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm thrilled to have the physical conversation because again, not a lot of people talk about that. So this is really fun for me because I love doing the physical exposure. So we will do things like have people run in place and hyperventilate, breathe through straws, learn that you can handle the physical sensations because OCD will throw those at you to scare you into doing compulsions and say, boy, look at how dangerous this is. You might die, right? And then you kind of go from, I don't know if I want to be alive on a train to, but if I don't do the things OCD tells me, I'm going to die because look at all these physical sensations I'm having. And these mimic heart attacks and various other physical experiences. So you were kind of in this damned if you do, damned if you don't stuck point for a while there, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also really want to touch on the cultural piece. I think that is so important because of how you described, you know, what families think about therapy. How do your parents feel now? Not only that you've gone through therapy, but that you're going into this as a profession. Have they changed their outlook on this at all?
So I was actually hoping you'd ask me this. This is a really big one for me.
Yeah.
I talk to everyone about therapy except for my parents.
Okay.
So I haven't gotten there yet. It's something that I'm working on and it's a goal for myself to finally have that conversation with them. Maybe I'll show them this podcast. I don't know.
Hi, Mom and Dad. If you do, nice to meet you. Yes. Hello. Uh-huh.
I guess the conversation in my family is not very open about a lot of things. So it's not always easy to be very transparent with them.
Yeah.
And I think they feel the same with me. I think it's just a generational and a cultural thing. They know that I'm going to school for therapy, but I don't think they really know what that means. Like,
Sure.
I don't think they know what. Yeah, I don't think they know what it means. I think like they know I'm going to school for therapy, but they don't know that I've been in therapy.
Okay.
Um, I got into an argument with a family member, not one of my parents,
Okay.
another family member extended,
Sure.
and she said to me, "I don't know why you're going to school for therapy. You're going to make them even crazier." And
Hmm.
I didn't love that comment.
No, no, that's not a fun
It,
one.
I, I didn't love a lot of things about it, especially like her taking away the fact that I'm capable of helping people.
Sure.
And then I didn't like that she used the word crazier because that goes back to the cultural aspect of like assuming that therapy is for crazy people. And I don't like that. It's not very nice. And it's also not
Mm.
true.
Right.
Um, but hearing comments like that still makes it very difficult for me to speak about what I want to do. And I feel that they won't understand it. And that's the hardest part for me. But my goal is to get them to understand it because I think that generationally and culturally, they need education on what therapy really is.
hmm and I'm super thankful to you for being so open about that and honest about it, and for being a part of the generation that brings therapy into cultures and belief systems and pockets where it has kind of been a taboo thing, a no thing. You're not supposed to talk about anything outside of the family. Don't let anyone know you have a quote unquote weakness or something like this, right? And I'm
Absolutely.
thrilled, and we see now, just in the last couple of weeks, I did a podcast with Zane Gonzalez the other day, who's a kicker on the NFL who has OCD, and he was on tape doing compulsions, and people were like, "Oh, look, he's having a wardrobe malfunction." It's like, no, and now he's out and he's talking about it and everything. So, I I appreciate all walks of life are finally coming out about this and in saying, listen, I have this, but there's help available for it, and you can live an amazing life and have OCD. Not, oh, I have OCD, so I can't live an amazing life, because you absolutely can.
Yeah. And I also just appreciate that it puts into perspective that we're not making it up. Like, we're not pretending that we're having these thoughts and that they're
Right.
affecting us. They're very real. And the proof is in the fact that there are so many people who do suffer from it.
Yes. And not just suffer, but who sometimes turn to abuse substances as a way to manage it. Sometimes do contemplate suicide. Sometimes do complete suicide even as a way to deal with this. And the more we can get the word out and let people know that help is available, the better, right?
Yes.
What was it like to go from being in your head so much to now doing ERP, right? Exposure and response prevention, where you're now going to face those ruminations, those thoughts, those images, those urges without the safety behaviors. That's a shift that is hard for people to accept because you're so used to doing safety behaviors. And a lot of people will think I'm only okay because of the safety behaviors that I've done. What was it like to give those up, and how did it change your life?
So I think that the way that my therapist went about teaching me what it was super important. Like, she gave me the
Yes.
psychoeducation that I needed in
Great.
order to understand what ERP really was and how it would help me.
Mhm.
So she well, okay. So one of the compulsions that I struggled with was I did not like to use public toilets
Sure.
because
Mhm.
but this is the part. So I know a lot of people don't like to use public toilets, but I didn't like to use public toilets because I thought I was going to get an STD, and then I thought that my boyfriend would think that I was cheating on him
Ah,
because I had an STD. So
gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
wasn't even
Mhm.
like concerned about getting sick. I was
Yeah.
concerned that he thought I was cheating on him.
Sure.
So that was like the very the way that my brain was latching on to this. It got
Yeah.
to the point where I didn't even want to sit on the toilet in my own household because I was like, well, what if somebody in my house has an STD and then he
Mm-hmm.
thinks I'm
Mm-hmm.
cheating?
Mm-hmm.
So I would put down toilet paper in my own household.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the compulsions that I brought to my therapist. And she said, well, this is perfect. We're going to use this as an exposure. Um, Slowly, we started with reading articles and then writing worst case scenarios. And then when she felt that I was ready, she said, okay, after this session, you are going to go to the bathroom and you're not going to put toilet paper down. Like, you're in your own house. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Mm-hmm.
So I did. And after I did it, I was like, ooh, like that was kind of fun. Like, yay, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of became a game for me. I would like find little things to do where I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna do an exposure here, like, and I like to challenge myself in ways like that. So like I'd go to a friend's house and be like, I'm gonna do an exposure. I'm not putting toilet paper down. I still will not sit on a public toilet. I think many people won't, but I've gotten much, much better about just using the bathroom in general and not worrying that like X, Y, and Z is going to cause X, Y, and Z to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely became a game for me in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it it's almost funny to me. Like I'm able to have a sense of humor about it, which everyone, some people do, some people don't. I personally like to laugh about it because it makes it easier.
Yeah. I've used a lot of that in my own therapy with people, and uh, you know, most people get it, but some people want a very serious therapy, and we can do that too, right? It just a good therapist is going to know their audience and who they're working with, and I'm glad you clicked with your therapist. That's one thing I've liked about what we do at NOCD. That if you don't, we can set you up with somebody else, right? That make sure that relationship is there, because that's really key. You really had to trust your therapist to do these things and work together, correct?
Absolutely. I think, yes. And I think that I was also at such a low point with the thoughts that I was having that I honestly would have spoken to anybody. And
Mm-hmm.
that says a lot for me because I was so against therapy to begin with that I felt that I was at the point that I would literally talk to anybody. It was like I waited way too long, but
Yeah,
I only recognized that after.
sure. And I want to go back to something you said earlier. So you go to all these doctors, physicians, specialists, whatever, for the physical things. Like, well, nothing wrong with that. I mean, we can investigate the physical things all day long, but we ain't touching anything up here because that is off limits whatsoever. But all the other stuff, you can scope me, you can blood draw, you can prod and poke and do whatever to figure out what's going on. Just don't touch up here whatsoever. How do you look back at that now? And part two of that, what are your thoughts about then all the medical appointments that you went through and maybe nobody actually asking you about anxiety or anything?
Yeah, that is the first thing that I would have responded to that is that nobody ever asked me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's super important because I think that a lot of people go through that where nobody's asking them. And it's like, if no one's asking me, how would I know?
Yeah,
Especially if I don't have a background in psychology or, I mean, I have a background in education, so I did have some psychology in there, but to somebody who did not study that at all, it's like they probably wouldn't even think to be like, oh, well, maybe, something's going on up here. So I would hope that, you know, in the future and just doctors, people who are becoming doctors today and are dealing with physical ailments, I would hope that they make it part of their routine to ask about mental health as well.
yeah. It's one of the things that I enjoy most about my job. I'm talking about me for 1 second here, but it's one of the things that I really
Please
enjoy
do.
is I get now to work with other providers who work with NOCD, and I get to go on either virtually or in person to prescribers, and I get to educate them about OCD and tell them about how it appears and what they can look for. And it's amazing how many people say, "Oh, that's OCD. Oh, wow, okay." And the second part is to help them recognize too that the dosage required on medications is more for OCD than it is for, say, depression or something. So we're continuing to push out that education. You today are being a part of that. So thank you for helping us with that too, because I can say it all day, but to have someone who's been through it and who now looking back would have appreciated learning something like that is really great.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a part of it. And I do appreciate that I have the experience myself, because I hope that, as a therapist in the future, I'm able to bring that experience into sessions with clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are people watching this right now who are where you were at, right? Who are thinking, gosh, if a bus could just hit me or I could just fall off a curb and hit my head or something. What do you say to those people? You're on the other side now, but what do you say to those folks?
I would say you're not making this up. There's something going on, and you should get it checked out. And that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means that you're human, and we're all made a little bit differently. So go get it checked out. If you have to Google a couple of times, Google it. I know that that's a compulsion of OCD, but Google also helped me because it did give me the answers I was looking for in this sense. So Google it. If you feel like your symptoms are what OCD, like what are listed as OCD, then it really doesn't hurt to talk to someone. And either you have OCD or you don't. But if you find out you have OCD, then you can get treatment for it. But if you don't, then you can figure out what else is going on.
There we
So
go.
either way,
Mhm.
you win because you're going to figure out what's going on.
Right. And sometimes that's scary to people because then they'll be afraid, what if they tell me I don't have OCD? Well, then we're going to find you people to help you for what you do have then, right? So
Exactly.
either way, I agree with you. You can
It,
win this situation.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
always better to know what's going on. Ignorance is not bliss. If
No,
you continue to live like this, you are going to be very miserable. So, take advantage of the fact that there are people out there who can help you and there are resources, and just make your life better. You have to take control of your own life.
yeah. For a long time, you lived the life that OCD wanted you to live, and now you're working on living the life that you want to live. What is different about those two lives?
I don't think so much about like things really. Like I
Mhm.
feel like before I would avoid doing things that I really wanted to do because I would just start to spiral and, have these thoughts that would get in the way of letting me enjoy it. So I would have rather just not participated. But now I'm more able to live in the present, and I'm not and I won't say that, like I said, OCD doesn't go away. So it still happens. I'm not saying that I'm completely cured,
Right,
but
right.
I'm more able to live in the present, and I'm more able to have fleeting thoughts versus having thoughts that, you know, like my brain, I'm able to turn off my brain sometimes. Going back to the analogy I used before, I'm able to turn it off and charge it so that it's not so tired and my battery is refilled for, you know, whatever activity I want to do.
Thinking back to that 7-year-old you and going to that therapist, right? And then you do no CD therapy and you're introduced to ERP. What was different? I mean, what kept you coming back?
I think a lot of things. For starters, I brought myself to therapy when I came in for ERP.
There
I
you go.
wasn't brought there from by someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a big part of therapy being effective is you being willing to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
just the willingness that I had in my, the willpower I had to do it was a big thing. I wasn't like tricked into it. I do think that as much as I want everyone to go to therapy, I think that it's a lot more effective if they're willing to be there.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah.
that was one thing for me. Um Another thing for me was the way that it was approached. When I was 7, it was treated as if I was, like there was something wrong with me and I needed to be fixed. When I found NOCD, the way that it was presented was, oh, hey, like you need some help? Like we got you. We can help you. So it was the framework of it. It wasn't such a negative thing. It was like, oh, we're here. We can help you. Like we can make life better. It was more positive.
That's awesome. I'm thrilled to hear that. I want it to be a positive experience for everyone, and I might be slightly invested in NoCD really being positive for people, being the chief clinical officer. But I'm thrilled that was the experience, and I think that means you're going to go out and do really effective therapy for OCD as well for people.
Thank you. I hope so. And also, another thing that I like really brought me into NoCD was they were available for me like at the snap of a finger. Like
Oh,
I went
sure.
on the website and it was like schedule a call within the next 5 minutes, and I was like, okay, and I
Mm-hmm.
did, and they literally called me, and I was like, oh my goodness, like if I would have, if they wouldn't have called me right away, I may have put it off longer because I may have been like in the moment that I signed up, I was ready to talk.
Sure.
But if maybe an hour, 2 hours, even a day would have passed by, maybe I would have been like, I don't want to talk to them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I needed them and they were there, it just like, I don't know, it really made me feel like, okay, like I'm in it now. So like now I gotta, I have to proceed. But like, not that I felt trapped or anything. I don't want it
No,
to
no,
sound like
sure.
that,
No, no,
but like
no,
it just
not at
felt
all.
like someone cared about me reaching out to them and like did want to help me.
Yeah,
And yeah, I appreciated the timeliness of it.
that's awesome. Now that you're in grad school, you're going to learn a lot. I mean, this is just going to be the advice portion of this. You're going to learn a lot about different types of therapies. Unfortunately, what's probably going to happen in grad school is they're going to talk about OCD for about 10 minutes in one of your classes, and they're going to talk about exposure and response prevention therapy for maybe 3 or 4. And that's the education you're going to get. And it's unfortunate that it's that way because we have an amazingly effective therapy for a condition that affects 1 in 40 people in the world, and we don't teach people about it. And it either takes someone who's gone through the treatment or who is lucky enough to be maybe at a graduate school where there's an anxiety lab or an OCD lab or someone who specializes in it to really get it. Uh, I hope you and maybe anybody listening who's going through graduate school also works on becoming agents of change, right? Because this is something I'm passionate about, is making sure that we prepare therapists to treat people, right? I think we have a lot of general therapists out there, and I'm not knocking general therapy. I think it's very great for people, but we need more specialists for the conditions that are also going on. And there's not enough of those. And that's been the mission for NoCD along the way. So I hope you will continue to carry that torch of making sure that people truly understand through your lived experience what it's like to live with OCD and what it's like to have great therapy for OCD too.
Agreed.
Awesome. Well, give us some parting words. What do you want to, how do you want to motivate the world before we get out of here?
Um, Oof, that's a tough one. That might be the toughest question you've asked me
Well,
this
I
whole
I
hour.
am a therapist. I have to ask tough questions. It's my job.
I guess what I would want to say to everyone is just that you are loved and you are not alone.
Mhm.
And it's okay to laugh at the things that are going on with you because none of us are perfect. So if humor is your way out of it, use it, but don't ignore it. If you feel like there is something there and you need to talk to someone, you absolutely 100% should.
Fantastic. Sabrina, thank you so much for your time today. This has been wonderful to chat with you and to really get into some topics that we haven't discussed as much with others. So I really appreciate your openness and your honesty, and my best to you in your future career here in this field.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed chatting with you as well.
Awesome. And thank all of you for watching another episode of the Get to Know OCD podcast. If you're looking for help for OCD or related conditions, check us out at nocd.com. That's NOCD.com. We have our care team waiting to chat with you, just like they did with Sabrina right away, and get you hooked up with a great therapist. So get that call started. No need to delay. And if you liked what you heard today, subscribe to our NoCD YouTube channel where you can listen to all the episodes of the Get to Know OCD podcast and watch my Wednesday night webinars as well. Until next time, make it a good one.